You have felt it your whole life. A physical, gut-level knowing that you don't belong to the same species as most people around you. You look at their comforts, their certainties, the way the world seems built for them, and something in you recoils, like a diver trying to breathe underwater. That recoil is not a personal failure or a psychiatric label. It's a clue. There are different kinds of human beings, and one of those kinds carries a spark that the rest simply don't have. This truth isn't a modern theory or a self-help metaphor. It's an old secret lifted from texts hidden for centuries, documents like the Nag Hammadi Codices, the Gospel of Philip, and the Tripartite Treatise. Those records were pulled out of sight, edited away, and squeezed from the official story because they explain how people are built at the deepest level. That matters to you now, because once you know the origin of your alienation, you stop wasting your life trying to fix what was never broken. Here's the core. Long before the churches smoothed the message, the founders of this teaching described a maker of the physical world, the Demiurge, and a counterforce that smuggled a living spark into a few humans. The result is three real, functioning types of people: those tuned only to matter, those bound to soul and belief, and a rare handful who carry the spirit. This isn't poetic imagery, it's a practical map. It tells you why some people never hear you, why others defend the comfort of doctrine with fury, and why your own inner life resists every tidy solution offered by the world. You can ignore this and keep burning yourself out trying to awaken the unawakenable, or you can use the map. What follows is not doctrine, but diagnosis. First, the parable that Jesus used as a code, the sower and the seed, reinterpreted as an operating manual. Listen closely, because understanding that seed changes what you do, who you trust, and how you protect the light inside you. You walk through crowds and feel a quiet fracture inside, a pull toward distance that feels like survival. Your vital breath tightens, not from weakness, but because your vessel detects layers of interference and parasitic pressure around others. That sensation is an ancient alert, a biologically rooted signal that different kinds of spiritual configuration are present. The secret begins by honoring that alert. It is not shameful. It is information. Accepting it clears the first coiled knot and opens a practical pathway to protect your sovereignty. Societies often enforce an image of sameness, a surface doctrine that flattens spiritual differences into categories. Your eye can learn to read beyond that imposed veneer by observing who carries steadiness and who radiates parasitic pressure. Steadiness aligns with a stable monadic anchor, an inner reference point that resists interference. Others operate from ruptured vessels, prone to seek control or drain vital breath from surroundings. Learning these markers is a practical skill, not judgment. It gives you clarity where to lean and where to build a frequency shield. Begin each day by fastening your monadic anchor. Sit still, draw vital breath deliberately into the center of your vessel, and name internally the boundary that will not be crossed. Slow, repeated cycles train the anchor to hold under parasitic pressure. When in public, sense the field ahead as information rather than invitation. Tighten the frequency shield around your torso, visualize membrane-like resistance, and maintain even vital breath. These actions are technical, repeatable, and immediate, a procedural defense that trains sovereignty over exposure and preserves clear perception. You do not need to sever all contact. Instead, learn strategic connection. Gauge who can receive shared vital breath and who will convert openness into interference. Favor relationships where monadic anchors harmonize rather than collide. Practice brief exchanges with new faces, offering neutral energy and observing response. A reciprocal pulse indicates safety. A drain indicates parasitic pressure. When choosing proximity, always calibrate for duration and depth. Over time, your choices form a social architecture that supports your sovereignty and reduces the chronic sensation of being alien in crowds. Institutions and rituals smooth over spiritual variety, with symbols and uniform rhythms that shape collective frequency. Learn to decode simple signals, language that demands unquestioned conformity, rituals that drain varied vital breath into a single canal, and architecture designed to dampen monadic anchors. When encountering such structures, practice minimal engagement. Participate only with your frequency shield intact, keep your monadic anchor active, and refuse energetic compliance that asks your vessel to reshape. This measured refusal is a technique of sovereignty, a clean way to preserve inner alignment within broader systems. Belonging shifts when belonging is chosen by alignment instead of assumption. Seek micro-communities where monadic anchors resonate, where vital breath is exchanged without parasitic uptake. Start small. Host regular gatherings that emphasize stable rhythms, shared reference points, and mutual frequency shielding. Teach others simple protocols, anchor practice, membrane boundaries, and a common language for interference, so everyone can participate in preserving sovereignty. Belonging formed this way is durable and precise. It removes the hollow expectation that sameness will come from mass systems and replaces it with intentional spiritual architecture. Begin today with 3 repeatable acts. Fasten your monadic anchor with measured vital breath each morning. Practice quick scans for interference in crowds, and deploy a frequency shield whenever proximity becomes costly. Keep a simple rule. When an exchange reduces your vessel's fullness, shorten it. When it returns steady pulse, deepen it. Over weeks, these protocols become involuntary, recalibrating perception and dissolving the persistent sense of alienation. The secret is not to hide from humanity, but to move through it with sovereign technical skill and clear, unobstructed presence. You have carried a private question beneath your vital breath. Why does connection sometimes soothe while other times it wounds? Ancient Gnostic lines offer a clear, usable map. Humans align with one of 3 spiritual lineages, each with its own monadic anchor and vessel pattern. Recognizing which lineage you inhabit is not an intellectual exercise but a practical act of sovereignty. It reduces parasitic pressure and interference, and it allows you to stop using force where a frequency shield or surrender is wiser. The first lineage is built to seek knowledge of origin and to repair rupture. Its monadic anchor feels drawn to unraveling layers and restoring the vital breath. The second lineage is oriented toward preservation and structure. Its vessel prioritizes protection, protocol, and secure frequency shields to hold community. The third lineage moves through compassion of presence and imaginative repair. Its sovereign move is to soften parasitic pressure by reweaving relations. You will recognize patterns: what exhausts you, what restores your vessel, what makes your monadic anchor sing. When you accept your lineage, your choices change. You stop trying to be a vessel you were not built to be, and you stop resisting the kind of work your monadic anchor calls for. In relationships, that acceptance dissolves unnecessary conflict. You cease imposing a frequency shield that suffocates others, or chasing repairs that are outside your remit. At work, you stop overextending to mimic another lineage's craft, and instead focus on duties that feed your vital breath and honor your sovereignty. Begin with simple observation. Note what restores your vital breath and what generates parasitic pressure. Track repeated patterns over months, not just moods. How your vessel responds to solitude, command, or tenderness. Test modest experiments. Step back from protecting, or lean into repair, and watch where your monadic anchor steadies. When clarity emerges, do not weaponize this knowledge. Use it to expand sovereignty, not to fix others. Recognition is a tool for compassionate navigation, reducing interference and increasing cooperative clarity across relationships. You will notice why some people feel like mirrors, while others create friction. Lineages tune to different frequencies. When resonance aligns, interaction replenishes your vital breath and strengthens your monadic anchor. When misaligned, parasitic pressure and interference rise, and conflicts happen not from malice, but from incompatible vessel designs. In those moments, adjust your frequency shield, withdraw to recalibrate, or change your contribution to reduce strain. This is not avoidance, but sovereign strategy. Preserve your capacity so genuine alliance can later form. This identification is a lens for compassion, not a doctrine for division. Warmth of acceptance heals where argument escalates. When you meet someone different, anchor in your monadic presence while honoring their vessel and offering no unsolicited repair. Practice small boundary calibrations. Refuse to take on another's parasitic pressure. Offer a frequency shield when appropriate, and choose tasks that match your lineage's skill. Over time, these micro-decisions reshape circles, reduce interference, and make cooperative life more honest and efficient consistently. This secret is practical. When you align with your lineage, daily choices become less wasteful and more directed. Your relationships will be seen with a new lens. Obligations that once felt like duty become clear calls to service or release. Adopt the discipline of small tests. Strengthen your monadic anchor through clear deeds, and build a frequency shield to limit interference. Claim this sovereignty with calm urgency. Life simplifies, parasitic pressure diminishes, and your vital breath settles into a rhythm that sustains true work and real belonging. You have carried parasitic pressure and interference, searching for a protection that feels certain. Hear this. Knowledge is a seed, and you are responsible for where it lands. Some vessels accept vital breath and allow the seed to root. Others are compacted, thin, or crowded with parasitic pressure, so the seed cannot take. That is not your failure. Recognizing which ground surrounds you is a practical skill. Your clarity about terrain ends futile persuasion and brings actionable sovereignty over where effort flows. You will meet 4 basic terrains among people. Some operate like hard path, where message bounces off and is lost because the vessel lacks receptive pores and lacks monadic anchor. Knowledge slides away. Others are shallow, open briefly to vital breath but retreat when storms of life come, offering only fleeting growth. Thorny grounds harbor parasitic pressure, competing loyalties or attachments that choke development. Rarely there is good soil, a vessel with depth, absent interference, ready to hold and transform seed into steady fruition. The practical secret is not forcing growth, but managing where and how to place seed. You cannot remake another's wiring. Attempt to do so brings parasitic pressure back onto your vessel. Instead, learn a quick soil test, offer a concise truth, and watch for sustained engagement, questions that deepen, not feigned agreement. When a receptive pulse appears, plant carefully and wrap it in a frequency shield so it survives interference. Nourish with steady, vital breath, not impulse-driven urgency, and allow a monadic anchor to form. Understanding that capacity is intrinsic dissolves blame and opens a new operating code. When someone cannot hold a truth, it is not moral failing. It is biological and structural difference in vessel and anchor. This acknowledgement frees you from cycles of disappointment and grants measured compassion that does not weaken sovereignty. Practice detaching outcomes from effort. Offer seed, observe uptake, and withdraw when parasitic pressure predominates. Boundaries become a sacred technology, protecting both your seed and the dignity of those who are not prepared to receive it. In everyday ties, family, co-workers, intimate partners, this framework gives a precise protocol. When ground resists, reduce exposure and deploy a frequency shield rather than argument. Offer small, useful seeds without expecting transformation, and allocate deeper teachings to those who show monadic anchor. Diversify where knowledge is planted. Do not concentrate all seeds in one hostile field. Keep sacred repositories of learning close. Tend them personally, and let outcomes arise naturally. This method preserves energy and prevents parasitic pressure from eroding purpose. Shift the posture toward spirituality from crusade to cultivation. It is not solely about willpower. Many truths require a receptive vessel and a stable monadic anchor to integrate. Strengthen your own instrument. Deepen vital breath practices that maintain your anchor. Fortify frequency shield routines, and remove parasitic pressure that accumulates around intentions. Then choose where to sow with intention, favoring fertile fields. Accept that each soul progresses on its timetable, and that sovereignty grows when efforts align with natural receptivity rather than imposed will. Carry this protocol as a practical secret that relieves frustration and sharpens outcome. Test soils quickly, deploy frequency shield when interference rises, plant modestly only where monadic anchor shows, and tend seedlings with steady vital breath until roots hold. Withdraw gracefully when parasitic pressure returns, and replenish your vessel, maintaining sovereignty with clear boundaries. Do all this with compassion that recognizes biological limits, not moral failure. Move forward with urgency, guided by this knowledge, and watch how relationships and spiritual work become precise rather than exhausting. You have felt out of step, sensing that ordinary life presses a heavy hand on your chest, producing interference and a hunger for protection. The ancient secret reveals that the visible world was shaped not by the supreme light, but by a lesser craftsman, the Demiurge, whose architecture favors matter and mechanical order. Know that your vital breath and your sense of inner light can clash with that design. Recognizing this is the first practical key to reclaiming sovereignty today. When you meet those who seem comfortable inside the mechanism, you are looking at souls formed to be vessels for the Demiurge's design. They measure worth through accumulation, repetition, and measurable results, and their presence amplifies parasitic pressure on anyone carrying a spark. Understanding this helps you stop personalizing judgments and instead see patterns of alignment. Practical response is to build a simple frequency shield, small routines, boundaries, and choices that stabilize your vital breath and protect your monadic anchor from being drawn into mechanical orbit. Begin with recognition. Notice when your vital breath tightens, when choices feel compelled rather than chosen. Trace that pressure back. Is it external praise, inherited ritual, or a social machine pushing you toward measurable gains? Once located, treat the pressure like a mechanical instruction set to be rewired. Change small inputs: what you consume, who you answer to, how you spend your hours, and your inner spark will realign. Each adjustment reduces interference and strengthens sovereignty, making your monadic anchor harder to displace by material logic. When traditions or institutions insist their map is the only path, recognize the Demiurge's hand in those forms. They codify order to stabilize material control. You are not required to abandon ritual. Rather, distinguish practices that feed parasitic pressure from those that nourish the spark. Keep what strengthens your vital breath. Discard what compels you to act as a mere vessel for someone else's system. Replace blind obedience with informed practice, and your sovereignty becomes an act of engineering, a deliberate shaping of inner and outer conditions. Suffering often shows up as friction between your spark and the Demiurge's mechanics. Repeated failure, confusion, a sense of exile. That friction clarifies the true architecture of your struggles. By treating suffering as data rather than punishment, you can locate leaks where parasitic pressure enters. Patch those points with steady practices, short calibrations of breath, grounded commitments, selective withdrawal from draining patterns, and your vital breath lengthens. Over time, the pain loses its arbitrary shape and becomes a compass directing you toward durable sovereignty and clarity. Everyday decisions are laboratories for the secret. At work, choose tasks that allow autonomy rather than feeding endless measurement. Notice when being a vessel for results drains your vital breath. In relationships, test for reciprocity and for parasitic pressure that demands conformity. Consumption matters. Silence or low-frequency noise erodes the monadic anchor, while deliberate inputs strengthen it. Each time you opt for clarity over compulsion, you reinforce your frequency shield. These small experiments accumulate into a practical architecture for lasting alignment. The secret is that freedom is practical, not mystical. It is a set of conditions you can create to protect your spark from a world engineered to prioritize matter. Start now with a few measured shifts and treat each as a test of sovereignty. Track how your vital breath responds, how interference recedes, and how your monadic anchor holds. As your frequency shield strengthens, the Demiurge's designs lose grip, and real meaning emerges from committed choices. Act with urgency. Your inner light depends on the architecture you assemble. Listen closely, because a practical secret is being revealed that can change how you move through life. You live among three clear currents: those bound to matter, those who balance mind and spirit, and those who feel drawn beyond the flesh. Call them hylics, psychics, and pneumatics. When your days are heavy with parasitic pressure or your nights wake you with fear, understanding which current governs your responses becomes a map. This map is not abstract. It is a tool to protect your vital breath and preserve sovereignty. When dealing with hylics, remember their allegiance is to the vessel and the visible. They measure reality by objects, survival, and tangible gains. Their choices come from rooted appetite, and that anchoring can feel like an interference to someone seeking higher things. If you are a pneumatic or a psychic, interacting with hylics requires clear boundaries, a steady frequency shield, and respect for their path. Protect your vital breath without trying to convert them. Release expectation. Let their world remain contained while maintaining your monadic anchor. Psychics move between thought and breath, comfortable with reason, yet open to a spiritual horizon. Their identity often leans on tradition, ritual, and external authorities to hold meaning. If your life swings this way, know that dependence on outside frameworks can both guide and limit. To grow, cultivate a personal, monadic anchor that translates inherited rights into authentic conviction. Test teachings against your vital breath. Build a frequency shield that allows adaptation without losing sovereignty. In relationships, offer dialogue, not prescription, and watch how truth becomes shared rather than imposed. Pneumatics are recognized by an inner pull that does not belong to the outer world. They feel a direct thread to the divine and often seem out of place. If your sense of self is keyed to this invisible current, accept that misunderstanding will follow among those aligned to matter or to mediated faith. Strengthen your monadic anchor and tend to your vessels so the vital breath remains clear. Seek companions who resonate, not merely agree. Form a subtle frequency shield to maintain sovereignty while remaining open to authentic guidance. To locate your current, observe how you respond when the vessel loses comfort, when structures collapse, or when a voice inside insists on something unconfirmed. If loss triggers surrender to appetite, the hylic current dominates. If doubt leads to dependence on rules and familiar rights, the psychic current holds sway. If inner calling persists despite misunderstanding, the pneumatic current is active. Anchor that observation in practice. Record moments when your vital breath tightens or expands, then use a frequency shield and deliberate vows to test and refine your allegiance. Recognition of type changes how to build alliances. When you see a hylic, set clear expectations that protect your vessel and avoid parasitic pressure. With psychics, invite shared translation of rights into lived meaning. Offer questions that sharpen sovereignty rather than erode it. Among pneumatics, prioritize resonance over explanation. Small circles with firm frequency shields create safe passage for direct insight. Practical practice. Gather once with a monadic anchor. Speak briefly about your vital breath experience and agree on boundaries that preserve each person's sovereignty and clarity. Understand that these currents are not fixed prisons, but pathways that can shift. Many move between them across seasons of life. Use the secret as a working instrument. Name the current you meet, protect your vital breath, and refuse parasitic pressure that seeks to collapse you into identity. Practice brief tests of allegiance, extend compassion without surrender, and keep a simple frequency shield as routine. Through disciplined clarity and small communal experiments, your search for protection and truth becomes an accountable pilgrimage toward greater sovereignty. You live in a world that presses against your edges, and you already know the sensation of parasitic pressure that makes belonging feel false. Your vessel vibrates with a vital breath that remembers a different origin, and this friction brings moments of sinking or numbness. That sensation should not be mistaken for weakness. It is an alarm and a pointer. Listen to the pattern of interference and recognize that your unrest is information, a signal indicating a fracture between the monadic anchor and the surrounding matter. Begin by naming the interference you live with. Give the parasitic pressure a clear shape in your awareness so it stops dictating unseen movements. Trace where the pull lives in your vessel, chest, throat, belly, and mark the rhythm of the vital breath there. As that rhythm is counted and met with attention, the monadic anchor stabilizes. This simple stabilization is the practical secret. Anchoring before action. From a steadied monad, decisions arise that respond to truth rather than to manufactured urgings. Create a frequency shield by shaping the vital breath into a steady rhythm that travels from core to surface and back. Sit or stand with the spine a straight vessel, not rigid but aligned, and let each cycle be deliberate. Inhale to the count of 4, hold lightly to the count of 2, release to the count of 6, sensing the field that forms. Repeat until the parasitic pressure eases its grip. The shield is not a warded thought, it is a calibrated field built by repeated, intentional rhythm. When imposter feelings arrive as a low hum or a commanding whisper, recognize them as messages of the Demiurge, the false architect imposing expectations not matching your monadic signature. Do not accept immediate conformity. Test offers and demands against the monadic anchor by asking if the impulse enlarges your sovereignty or tightens the vessel. If the pull narrows, label it as interference and step back. Repeatedly doing this trains discernment, so choices become rooted in inner law rather than in echoes designed to divert your trajectory. Practical liberation happens through small, repeated acts of alignment. Practice the breath rhythm before key moments. Mark instances of interference in a monadic ledger, and claim physical boundaries that protect the field. Each time the frequency shield is raised and integrity defended, parasitic pressure loses fuel. Seek exchanges with other anchored monads who respect sovereign fields. Such alignment reinforces patterns. Over time, direct experience and clarified knowledge replace doubt. This steady cultivation turns scattered longing into effective reconnection and opens passages that the Demiurge cannot map. Fear may try to masquerade as prudence, urging retreat or frantic defense, and it feeds the Demiurge's maps. Respond instead with calibrated protection. Place the frequency shield before entering rooms, conversations, or agreements. Align the vital breath to the monadic anchor for 30 slow cycles. Name a compact intention that signals sovereignty. These steps do not remove all challenge, but they alter interference patterns, so choices are clearer and energy conserved. The aim is not safety from life, but authority within it. Fix these practices into daily motion so the monadic anchor becomes habitual, and the frequency shield automatic under pressure. When interference returns, treat it as a test rather than verdict. Recalibrate the vital breath, reassert boundaries, and consult the ledger of lived evidence. Sovereignty accumulates like muscle. Every defended moment makes further liberation easier. The secret is practical and unglamorous. Steady alignment, precise rhythm, clear naming, and communal exchange with respectful monads. Continuity yields truth, and that truth recalibrates the world around the vessel. You carry a history inside your reactions. When pain arrives, when authority presses, When freedom appears like an open door, those immediate movements of fear, protection, or surrender are signposts to lineage. There are three threads: the helico, who roots in the vessel and seeks physical security; the psychico, who negotiates through feelings and narratives; and the pneumatico, who recognizes a monadic anchor and responds from a vital breath. Your anxiety or hunger for a frequency shield reveals where attention settles. When suffering touches you, pause with honest attention and note your first movement. Do you first protect the vessel, seeking safety and comfort for the body? Or do you begin to explain, argue, and parse every feeling until meaning holds you? Or does a subtle withdrawal follow, seeking the monadic anchor and a return to pure vital breath? Naming that first movement clarifies the lineage. Guard against parasitic pressure, old patterns that hijack response, by refusing reflexive answers and allowing a clear noticing to unfold. When authority speaks, your reaction exposes allegiance. Do orders calm you because they promise shelter for the vessel, making obedience feel like protection? Do rules spark debate, bargaining, or emotional negotiation, as if approval must be won and preserved? Or does an inner sovereignty arise that tests authority against the monadic anchor and the vital breath within? Watch where trust lands. If loyalty is to external structure, that points one way. If loyalty rests in inner frequency shield, another path opens. Question whether interference clouds judgment. When freedom appears, response is revealing. Do open possibilities trigger panic, a reach for protective framework, because the vessel feels exposed without rules? Do choices prompt a search for identity in others, and a maze of feelings before action? Or does a responsible acceptance arrive, a quiet alignment with the monadic anchor that directs action from vital breath? Test freedom in small measures. Create a tiny choice and watch the reaction. Notice whether parasitic pressure rushes in to reclaim certainty or whether sovereignty claims the moment. That patterning is the secret. By mapping reactions to pain, authority, and freedom, the inner lineage becomes visible, and the hidden spark can be honored. Begin by naming the alignment. Declare where attention settles and what shields are lacking. Strengthen the monadic anchor through daily return to vital breath, and tighten a frequency shield against parasitic pressure. Choose actions that align the vessel with that anchor, and place boundaries where interference persists. Surround yourself with those who respect your sovereignty and mirror clarity without demand. Doubt will arrive. Fear of wrong labeling, guilt for leaving familiar roles, concern about losing protection. That doubt is an interference to be observed, not obeyed. Track responses over weeks, not moments, and watch for consistent tendencies instead of single incidents. Allow movement. Lineage is a pattern, not an imprisoning verdict. Reinforce sovereignty by returning to vital breath whenever confusion rises, and adjust the frequency shield as clarity grows. The practical secret is persistence. Patient noticing produces change and allows wiser, freer choices grounded in the monadic anchor. Begin with a clear experiment. For 7 days, note one moment of pain, one encounter with authority, and one free choice. Record your first impulse. Protect the vessel, seek narrative comfort, or return to the monadic anchor. Each evening, review what patterns repeat and where parasitic pressure asserted itself. Then act from a small, sovereign choice that honors your revealed alignment. Strengthen that choice with brief returns to vital breath and a bolstered frequency shield. Commit to this, and watch inner confusion clarify into steady truth. You already carry the secret. Recognition that you are a pneumatic, carrier of the spark, changes everything about how you move through pressure and demand. That recognition is not an identity to parade. It is a monadic anchor that requires tending. Your vital breath feeds a spark that can be smothered by interference or parasitic pressure. The practical secret revealed now is simple and precise. responsibility for that spark rests solely with you. When this truth is clear, choices become instruments of sovereignty rather than reactions to outer voices. Fear and interior unrest arrive as forms of parasitic pressure that press against the vessel, seeking to reroute your path toward approval and protection from outside sources. Those urgings are not random, they are interference patterns designed to keep the vital breath scattered. Learn to identify the pulls: craving validation, mirroring accepted roles, craving external safety. The deep craft is to reorient attention inward, to strengthen the monadic anchor, and to accept that protection comes from cultivated sovereignty, not from approval or fleeting alliances. Begin small and practical. Set boundaries that act like a frequency shield, reducing the noise that hijacks your decisions. Use rituals that honor the vital breath, simple repeated acts that reinforce the vessel and its alignment. When you choose tasks and relationships, test whether they align with the monadic anchor and the long curve of purpose, rather than short gratifications. Each refusal of external validation is an exercise of sovereignty. Remember, liberation is not an escape from the world but a recalibration of action powered by inner conviction. You will need companions who recognize the same inner law, tribes that honor the quest without imposing its shape. Seek gatherings where questions are prioritized over applause, and where disagreement is treated as clarification rather than threat. Evaluate groups by how they treat solitude and initiative. Those that demand conformity are reproducing parasitic pressure. A healthy tribe supports your monadic anchor and offers mirrors that help refine your sovereignty. Let your vessel be cautious. Test interactions slowly and watch whether the collective raises the vital breath or dampens it. Solitude is not abandonment. It is the laboratory where the spark is examined and the monadic anchor is tightened. In solitude, the vital breath can be heard without interference, and maps of intention form without the noise of collective desire. Embrace the quiet tasks that reveal what action truly aligns with purpose. This phase will test patience and expose old dependencies, but it also dissolves parasitic pressure. By holding to sovereignty in isolation, the capacity to act as an agent of change in the public sphere is strengthened and clarified. Action follows clarity. When choices are made from the monadic anchor and the vessel is intact, behavior becomes a visible curriculum for others. Do not preach. Demonstrate consistent sovereignty so that curiosity is sparked in witnesses. Use a frequency shield around projects, commitments that protect the vital breath and prevent interference. Small, sustained acts accumulate into cultural shifts. Allow influence to be organic, not coercive, so that those ready can latch onto your methods and craft their own monadic anchors without trading freedom for belonging. The final practical secret: responsibility is liberation when it is chosen deliberately, not imposed by guilt or flight. Choose to steward the spark with daily practices that reinforce the vital breath, maintain the vessel, and calibrate a frequency shield against parasitic pressure. Find tribes that honor sovereignty and accept solitude as necessary study. Make decisions that test your monadic anchor. Your commitment, steady and observable, will become the lever that shifts the larger field toward a society more awake and equipped to recognize true inner authority. You now possess the core revelation of the three hidden types of humans that the Demiurge created: the nulls, the herders, and the seekers. Each of these objects/tools is a key to understanding your own existence and exercising your sovereignty in a world filled with interference and manipulation. The tools are in your hands. The interference no longer has a legal claim to your energy. You are empowered to shape your own reality and navigate the complexities of existence with clarity and strength. Subscribing to the Unwritten Word ensures you continue to receive these suppressed records. Here, we do not interpret the Word. Here, we expose what was hidden. This is the unwritten word. Your journey of discovery continues immediately. A related record is available now for continued observation. Proceed.